Sure.
Sweet.
Are there, public roll call, please?
Mayor Lewis,
Present.
Vice Mayor Luis,
Here.
Chairman Conlon,
Here.
Vice Chairman Sanders,
Here.
Mr. Massey,
Here.
and President
Excused.
excused, and Mr. Polito is excused as well.
All right, are there any public for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to approve the minutes of July 23rd. If anybody has any questions before we approve them.
Move we approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the September 11th minutes,
I have a question. What is the purpose of reviewing the draft minutes? Is it, we can approve those?
Now, what is
at the
it?
next
What
meeting?
is
No,
it?
then they become,
They become official minutes
right.
because we had that Brown Act presentation thing.
no, it's a draft, they're always draft,
Okay.
when we approve them, and then they become, hard.
Thank you.
so I guess a motion is appropriate to approve the September 11th minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would move we approve those too.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
okay,
Was there a second?
yeah.
Yes, Mr. Reed.
But Vice Mayor Weeks doesn't get to vote, because he's not a voting member.
Oh, so then we need a second from, then we need a second on the approval of the first minutes. Mr. Massey motioned.
Why don't you-
Diane? Well, I'll move for a
Okay,
second.
second, okay, so that's for the, okay.
And then we'll move ahead to the presentation by Robert on the open gov software. And give us a little prelude here about why we're looking at this.
Okay, as you're aware, in recent years, with what's going on with the economic crisis and since 2008 and everything that's transpired since, there's been a big movement for transparency, especially with towns similar to the town of Bell back in Southern California. Movement for transparency, for readily information regarding local agencies, not just local agencies, but counties and state as well. So OpenGov Transparency is a Silicon Valley-based company. They specialize in web-based software, aiding in transparency of financial information, data for government agencies. It's a cloud-based application that would be a link to our new website that residents can click on. It's user-friendly. It's very visual. You can make charts and graphs through it. It's just an additional tool that provides more transparency and understanding of our financials, of our budget within our town. Other agencies have been using OpenGov. This will not take place over our budget or financials, but it's just another tool that, if used, residents can click on and look at certain things, maybe questions they may have before they come in and they ask staff as far as requesting additional information. So this is just another tool out there for information basis.
Basically, I was at a conference and I came across this vendor, stopped in, saw what it was all about, and think, you know, the community's looking at our budget online, and it's just, you know, 2.5 inch, 1.5 thick document, and it's really designed for internal use, not external education. We're trying to revamp that, but it's a little bit challenging. OpenGov is a great online resource that provides the public the ability to not only look at our budget information, but interact with it. And I think that's kind of important for the
Well,
policy.
does it input the entire budget to work from?
We do. And Nate will go through that in his presentation, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is a service that is an interface. It takes our data, takes our real data, and puts it in a format, again, that will allow for user-friendly use, manipulate numbers, actual numbers and budget. So, and that's why we brought
You said that other agencies are using it. Can you rattle off some of anybody here locally
Mhm.
that we know of?
Yes, the city of Palo Alto was pretty much one of the main cities that have used OpenGov. They've actually won an award based off of the tools of using OpenGov.
Maybe they can.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
is
yeah,
that
I
part
just-
of your presentation?
Yeah, happy to.
Oh, good, okay.
Closest, Palo Alto, Menlo Park signed on last week. We're working with Union City over in the East Bay, Saratoga, Los Gatos, Santa Cruz, Salinas. Those are the regional ones, Monterey as well. Actually, we just signed on Seaside down there. Southern California, we have Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Bell, Beverly Hills, Culver City.
Well,
I
you
can-
should have Bell earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Or you
Bell's
shouldn't
a
say Bell at all.
recent- Is it a recent
Part of
account?
their penance.
Last month.
Oh, last
Yeah,
month, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
think
Bell-
they've changed their ways a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We're very happy to be part of that transformation for them.
Good, good. So,
Well, do you want him to
Show us.
start, Robert? Is that?
Yes. With that, without further ado, I'd like Nate to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about with OpenGov.
Perfect. Well, I'll jump into it. I'll give a quick introduction of myself and the company and why we're doing this and how we got here. Thank you, Robert, for having me here, and it's great to be here showing this to you guys. So I was actually a student at Stanford University when we started working on this project. I was studying electrical engineering and computer science. This was about 4 years ago now, and we were actually working, myself, some of my colleagues, on a nonprofit organization. And we were working with the state of California to help them analyze and visualize budget issues. So we were collecting data from state agencies, from cities across the state, trying to put those together into reports, working with various members of the state assembly and the Senate to create reports for their constituents, for other members of the assembly. And what we kept running into is a recurring problem when we go to cities, when we go to agencies and we ask for data. It was very hard to get it. We could get a budget document, we could get massive spreadsheets, but it was very hard to use, it was very hard to read, it was often poorly organized. And we kept running into these problems where we spent a tremendous amount of time just to make sense of kind of basic financial information. And then sometimes getting more than just the last year or the last 2 years would be impossible because they'd use systems that were 30 years old, poorly designed when they were built, run on legacy code, the vendors out of business, and a whole host of reasons why they couldn't get access to this information. So we started a company called OpenGov. I co-founded it along with our CEO, Zach Bookman, who was actually at the time in Afghanistan working on a transparency task force. And then our third co-founder is Joe Lonsdale, who co-founded Palantir Technologies in Palo Alto, which some of you may have heard of. It's a multi-billion-dollar company doing data analysis for the federal government. So kind of the three of us got together, hired some really bright engineers, and built the OpenGov platform. As I was saying, we're now in a number of states, or a number of cities throughout California. We're in currently 42 governments in 11 states. And I'll dive in and show you how it works.
thank you.
Let's see. All right, so this is our website. Go over here to the Customers tab. This is where we list all of our current customers. You can actually go here and pull up any of their sites. So Palo Alto, Salinas, Bishop, Monterey, and you can go down here and pull all of these up. I'm going to go and I'll launch Palo Alto for you guys, and we can take a look at that. Go ahead and click this link. This will pull it up. Now this is their live site, so this is publicly accessible on any computer, anywhere in the world. You'll notice it's at paloalto.opengov.com, and I'm connected to the library's internet here, so it might be a little slow, but hopefully this comes up. There we go. So what we're looking at here is actually 6 years of the city of Palo Alto's complete financial data. So if we kind of look at this bottom axis here, you see it's 2009 through 2012 actuals, and then the 12-13 and the 13-14 budget. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see it's broken down by the expense categories across the city. And we can go ahead and look at any of these expense categories. So as you can see, there's salaries and benefits, utilities, contracts, general expense, debt, etc. So for example, we can pick something like salaries and benefits, hover over it, you can see the dollar amounts pop out, so you can see In the current budgeted year, they budgeted $221 million out of a total budget of $539 million on salaries and benefits. And then we can drill down into these categories and see the details. So I can click salaries and benefits, for example, drill in and see a graph of salary and benefit spending, kind of down to the line item now. So this is pulling up the detailed breakdown, and you can go through here and compare any of these. So we could pull up regular and benefits and compare them, for example. Or you could pick something like overtime, and I can click on overtime and bring up a 6-year trend line of overtime spending across the entire city. Just a couple clicks, I have this information right in front of me, it's in graphical format, I can see that trend line, I can get to the raw numbers. Then I'll go over here to the choose data filter, and this is what gives the software a lot of its power, is this filter here that allows us to kind of select any cross-section of the data that we want. So what you're seeing here is basically the City of Palo Alto's chart of accounts. This is how the City of Palo Alto organizes all of its financial data by funds, by departments, and then by expense and revenue types. So for example, now we're looking at overtime spending across the entire city. I can go over here, break it down by department, go ahead and close this, and now I have a graph of overtime spending broken down by department across the city. And I can again see those dollar amounts. I can also go and look at this in different graph types. So I can go look at the individual trend lines. I can look at a pie chart, of course, and kind of scroll back through the years and see how the proportions have changed on that pie chart for the overtime spending. I can also pull up a table and see the raw numbers in tabular form as well. And I'll also note that you can go over here to the download button. You can download all these tables, all of these graphs as a spreadsheet. You can get the raw numbers right out of the system. You can also download or export them as an image. All the tables, all the graphs, throw it in a report. This has actually been a pretty valuable internal tool in cities like Palo Alto that are using this for internal report creation and even for creation of the budget document. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you, what language are you using? What software language are you building your software?
To build this, well, it's a lot of JavaScript. We're using,
So it's JavaScript?
well, that's for the site. We're using Node.js on the back end and also Python.
What are you using for your analytics in your BI?
What do you mean? For,
How are you, okay, when you're drilling in, right, and you're making, all of this is from good data in, right? So how it's logged in on our accounting product is how you're extrapolating the information, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is there anything in the analytics that says on the average it should never be more than 3.6% here or 7.8% there? Is there anything that does that?
You mean looking at the data and helping you kind of
Correct.
measure the
Correct.
trend lines? Not yet. That is something we're actually working on right now. This is our first product, the OpenGov platform. The goal here is to solve the kind of base problem of just access to the data, giving people access to it in a more intuitive visual format. As you can see, also a very fast and accessible format. Beyond this, we have a whole suite of other products we're working on, including more powerful business intelligence to do performance management, metrics, future projections, smart budgeting. We have some really neat products on the roadmap.
So the other
yeah.
question, maybe following up, is all the numbers that are input, they cannot be manipulated at all.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
this is purely a system for access. This
Read
isn't-
only.
Exactly. It's read only. Data secure. It's not going to be modified or anything once it's in the system. Now I'll talk a little bit at the end about how we set this up, and part of what we do as a company is take the data and format it into a more accessible format than what it would just be out of a raw, say, accounting ledger. And I'll get to that in a little bit, but we're not modifying the numbers or changing it with the organization. Just to go back to the choose data filter here, I'll show you kind of how the types of selections you can make using this. So I can go back to the account type breakdown, and I can go over here and, for example, maybe only look at the general fund if I want to. And maybe I'm the fire chief or I'm interested in the fire department. I can go ahead and look at the fire department here. I can look at all of our expenses, close this, go back to the graph, and now I have a graph of fire department expenses out of the general fund across those 6 years. So again, I can go look at the dollar amounts and salaries and benefits or contracts. I could pick something like supplies and materials, drill into it, and now I see what the fire department is spending on uniforms, office supplies, safety supplies, tools, recreation. So you get all of these numbers right in front of you very quickly, very easily. You can change the way that you're breaking down these numbers. So I can go back here, pull this up, break this down by kind of the department organization again, and now I'm looking at the divisions in the fire department. Instead of the expense categories, I'm looking at the divisions, and I can see emergency response, training, environmental safety, click something like emergency response, and now I see the programs in the fire department and how much they're spending on each of the individual programs. And again, I can click those, drill in, and see the trend lines.
Do the code of accounts, are they consistent from entity to entity, or do you have to?
No, they're not. They're not. So that's part of the work that we're doing, is taking essentially the raw accounting data and mapping it to your chart of accounts and custom coding the site to map to your data so that it's giving a completely accurate presentation of where the money is going and coming from in your city, or town in this case. And I'll also show you on the revenue side. Actually, I'll pull up City of Thousand Oaks to show you revenue because they've put in a lot of data and it looks really nice. So I'll pull that up in a sec. And just to talk a little bit while it's loading about how the data gets into the system. They came up pretty quickly, so I'll get to that in a sec. If we go over here, you can see that you can select expenses. You can also select revenues. So I'll go over here. I'll select the revenues. Go back, close this, and then what you're looking at is a 10-year trend line of revenue for the City of Thousand Oaks. And we just really like to show this one off because they put in so many years. You can see they put in 10 years of data going back from 2004 up to the current budget year. And that's a really beautiful presentation. You get kind of the dip in the 2008 recession. You can actually see that there. You can see the recovery since. You can drill in again to taxes and fees and see those numbers. You can drill into a specific type of tax and see those numbers. Look at this as a table. So again, a lot of great flexibility on the revenue side. Same power to drill in, do different selections by fund, by organization.
You're saying
by
that in
revenue type.
2005 and 6 that their property taxes dropped from 6.5 to 5.7,
Mm-hmm.
and back up to 7.5?
That's in lieu
And
sales
sales
tax.
In lieu sales tax, yeah. That's the in lieu sales tax. The sales and use tax is the top one. So yeah, I can go back to the full revenue presentation here. You can see. Those are the larger revenue categories: taxes, charges, revenues from other agencies, and you can see those numbers all there in the table. The screen, the projector's crunching the screen a little bit, so you have to kind of scroll to get the full table. So that's kind of the full OpenGov suite right now. Is that ability to take all your expenses, all your revenue data, up from the high level trend lines and summary, all the way down to the line item level detail, and you're giving people the power to go find whatever data they want easily without needing to go through the city, without needing to ever open the budget document to get to those numbers.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah. So anybody have any questions about it? Anything else I can show you guys on the platform?
The information you're using, you're treating it like a data warehouse where you're taking all of the towns and cities. Are you able to manipulate it to say, on an average trend per category? You know,
I mean, across different cities?
Mhm.
That again is something we're working on.
Okay.
It's obviously a very difficult challenge because of the disparity across cities and how they're organized. You see different funds, you see different expense and revenue types. Obviously, everybody has different departments and divisions. So there's a lot of difficult work we have to do there with the data. But we have some very smart people working on that, and I think we're going to build something.
So is your license fee a one-time fee, or you have?
It's a recurring annual fee, so you're paying for the hosting. And that's the other thing is this is a cloud-hosted software as a service solution, so there's nothing that the city has to own, install, set up. You actually don't need IT to be involved at all. We're managing it, we're doing all the maintenance, we're hosting it.
How do you input it all the data, that 3 inches of data?
So that's,
Send them a
yeah,
file.
you send us a flat file.
Just
So
a file.
you export it from the accounting system, you send it, and then we're storing a copy of all the data.
Do you have the readable format, or do you have to input scratch?
No, well, the format that they want is usually, they're different formats because they realize that there's a bunch of different financial software systems. Some are archaic, some have been in place since 30 years. Others are more like Windows-based, but we can send them a text file and they can read, and all they really need is our chart of accounts, plus all our data, and what they do is they map it. Take our chart of accounts
So
Isn't
and map
that
it.
gonna be a big job for you?
It would take some time. Initially, the only ramp up time is just taking time from me and staff, just getting that data, uploading it, and sending it to them, and then verifying that, hey, this category runs up with taxes and fees. This category is salaries and benefits. Kind of, that's what it would take. But other than that, I think that would be the only hard part. Once we get down to that, everything is just updating it.
You're
Same.
creating an export file that matches their, from our chart of accounts to match their input stream.
Mhm.
And then updating that data on a regular basis is a frequency which we can decide upon.
Correct. And to answer your question about the work, we designed this process to be, we know you guys are busy, we know the finance staff are busy and have a lot going on, so we've tried to make this process as straightforward and minimal effort as possible. So as Robert was saying, the workflow on his end is essentially exporting the data, usually into a spreadsheet format. Most accounting systems can accommodate that as a standard report, attach it to an email, you send it, and then we do the rest
Are
of
we
the
talking about days or weeks or?
Well, we're talking about, in our experience, for most cities, it's usually measured in hours on the city staff time, usually about half a day of work, so about 4 hours of work on the city's time.
3.5 inches a day?
Yeah,
Well,
we export it.
We
Budget's
export
just
it,
educational, that's the fluff of the budget.
yeah. And then it takes us about a week to get the site built. So the entire turnaround time is usually about 7 days from start to finish. And again, that's about 4 hours of city staff time.
Yeah, I think the initial hard part is just getting started, but once they have that and they've built it to suit our funds and what we have, everything after that is just, okay, export the data, if the data's correct for the month, we just verify, okay, export it to them.
So
They
you do
take
it monthly?
We do it monthly, quarterly, or every other month. It just, all of it is just making sure that when we update that the files that we have is just supposed to update that what we want.
Will your monthly data then come through them or rather than?
No, we would still do the monthly data. The object is for, our monthly data is gonna mirror what they have. That's the object. So, once we're comfortable with our monthly data and we know that that's accurate, we would upload and send them that data so they can mirror it.
And then citizens could have access to it after that?
If they can click on it'll be a link on our website. They just click on the link and go to this, it's the same portal, but it'll be for our town.
Your refresh time is, once you're up and running, refresh time, if Robert sends you something, 7 days still?
No, that's 30 minutes. Once the only hard part on our end in terms of the data work that we're doing is actually mapping the data to the chart of accounts, cleaning that, structuring our system to accommodate that. Once we've coded the software, it's smart enough to know how to handle it every other time, and it's pretty minimal effort on our part.
And how frequently we want to update it, of course, has an impact on the subscription costs on an annual basis, but
Yeah.
that's,
And
Slightly.
what
Yeah.
is that typical? Is it based on the size of it?
Yeah, it is. For the town of Atherton, for the full suite that would accommodate essentially as high frequency as you want on the uploads, I believe it was 2,800 per year.
On a monthly basis?
No,
No,
for
No,
you.
2,800 per year.
But the data would be inputted monthly?
That would accommodate monthly inputs if you
And
want.
that's our decision whether we input it or what?
Correct, it's your decision if you want to do it monthly, quarterly, twice a year.
So if we don't input it, we don't have it, and if we input it every month, we have it on a monthly basis.
Right.
Well, you're not inputting it, you're just sending it to us.
exporting the file.
And they're uploading it for us.
And how long are we talking about going back, how time frame back?
Well, and that's something we can discuss. I don't know, what, as they ramped up with different cities, I mean, some have gone all the way down to 2,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for us, I know we changed, financial systems in 2008 and 9 fiscal year. So,
That's
Right about that
right.
target.
yeah,
Yes.
to Springbrook. And so if we want to go further, that could take more time for us just to making sure that we download that data.
It's just historical data, you already have that.
Yeah,
All
but-
you're
but-
doing is either recategorizing and making sure the categories
Right,
he
but some of
has,
the-
you just give it to him.
right, but some of the,
The mapping is the same.
some of the mapping could have changed though, the chart of
The
accounts.
chart of accounts
The
changed.
chart
Chart of
accounts
accounts is
did
the only thing that's
change.
gonna change, is
It
by
did change.
category, right? So you would
It
just,
did.
but it can't be a dramatic change.
No, but that could take time just to ensure that we upload from our software from different years. I mean, that could take, it just depends. I mean, we can send them that and say, oh, by the way, 08, 09, you might see a difference here because no longer is it, this category is in this fund, it's in a different fund.
So
It may not
here's the
be
question.
necessary, actually.
Is the initial setup fee, there's gotta be an initial setup fee, and then it's
Yeah.
the 2,800
Yeah.
or whatever.
2,800.
So no matter how many years we go back,
Correct.
So we
Of
don't,
course, the work is on us.
yeah,
Go back.
yeah, but still,
It's a one-time thing. You put the, I mean, you're never gonna update the past years, so if you wanna put in extra historical years, you know, it might be a little extra work up
Do you
front.
offer a, what do you call it, PUF? Do you offer a paid in full?
I'm sorry?
It's called a PUF. It means that if we pay you more,
Uh-huh.
we receive a huge discount. It's called a paid in full. You don't do this, no?
For multiple years, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
We could discuss that, it depends on how many years you want to do, and
Okay.
that's something we can talk about.
Maybe an option.
Could you add those past years incrementally? Let's say we put in the 3 years from Springbrook and then went back
yeah,
one at a
after the
time.
fact.
It's very,
That would be a whole lot.
Started.
That'll be
Right.
easier, let's get started with what we have,
I
and
mean,
then go back.
I think our residents would love this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
gotta tell you, because people would ask me, these are years ago, well, can you show me, I'd go, what we're spending on this, and I'd go back to our finance reports, our financial reports actually have gotten a lot better in the last year or two. But it was very hard to figure stuff out, even with the pie charts and stuff. That was years ago, but I think this is fabulous.
I think we put this out there as transparent, you're gonna get,
Yeah.
you guys, council people, probably gonna get more phone calls.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
the
Yeah.
fact
people
that
will
you're
look at it.
using Node.js
Mhm.
is what's making it so dynamic.
it does.
Because
it
that
does
is
give us a
very
lot.
new.
Mhm.
It is not something that's commonly used, it's very expensive to use.
Mhm.
You have to be a very intelligent human being to accomplish that. So it's the latest, which is what's, like I said, that will be able to make
Very
you do
cool.
the BI work that you want to do.
Correct, yeah.
Very
It's going to give us the ability to build a very scalable platform that, I mean, our goal is, our goal is down the road, a couple of years out, you can go pull this up and you can compare yourselves to every city in the Bay Area, every city across the country, look at your spending, look at their spending, and do some really, really neat comparisons there.
If they're
We've
part
done
of the
some of
system.
that in the last few
Exactly.
months. We requested how we look like against other
Comparing,
cities.
yeah, it'd be
Now we
easy
can
to,
see it all on
Well,
one
visual
side.
aid is always
Yeah.
helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we're always comparing ourselves to Hillsborough
That's
or
right, that's
Montezerino
just-
or,
So you gotta recruit them.
Yeah. very
Working
well.
on it.
Make it easy.
Did you say you have like Los
Like
Angeles
city-
Hills?
Hillsborough,
He
Uh,
doesn't-
we
he
don't
doesn't-
have
he
Los
doesn't-
Angeles, yeah.
Some Los Gatos.
We have Los Gatos,
Hillsborough?
So.
we're talking Hillsborough.
that would be
Okay.
helpful.
Well, I have a
Yeah.
SAMPOD meeting this week on Friday, so I'll take this to all of my finance directors.
Great,
Okay,
great.
cool.
Hopefully get them.
Yeah.
Cool. It's
Well,
very
Robert,
cool.
how much work do you think it's gonna cost you initially and on an ongoing basis?
Well, the only thing is just making sure, just like we do the financial report to the council, just updating and making sure, I mean, sometimes there's these stuff in here that we are accruing for, but I have no problem, I don't think it'd be a big issue, it's just taking all the data, exporting it into an Excel file, we can do a CVS file or an Excel file, getting it and exporting it and sending it to them, and then just verifying. For us, probably like the first couple of times is just making sure that what they have and what we show matches. And then after that, it's just a matter of, okay, are we done with the month of November? Yeah, all right, let's just export it, send it to them, and then they'll upload it, and there we go.
So is there historical, like from month to month, that
Right, yeah.
can be looked back, or the moment that it's refreshed, is that refreshed?
No, yeah, you can roll back and look at prior monthly
Mhm.
data, yes.
So if Robert needs to make a journal entry to correct an end-of-year financial
Mhm.
piece, he can upload historical data to correct.
Yes.
You thought of that?
What is the real value, the ability to manipulate the data and present it in different formats?
Yeah, well, there's as I said, there's a couple values here. I mean, one is the access to it. I mean, one is just even getting to these raw numbers. I mean, this is not something that the average city makes accessible to the public. Getting down to the actual accounting level data, seeing down to the line item where the money's going. If that is made available, it's made available in a very hard to access format that's usually surrounded by a lot of financial jargon, in tables with terms that people don't know how to interpret, and usually you're only getting 1 year at a time. So you're not actually seeing it in context, you're not seeing trend lines or anything like that. So the access is huge. But then as an analysis platform, there's a lot of value there as well. So for example, you know, I'm showing, you can pull up over time, look at it by department. I mean, that's the type of analysis that if you wanted to do right now, you would have to go export all your data into Excel or a program like that, and you'd have to basically build that analysis yourself. And here, a couple clicks of a button, you can filter it by fund, filter by department, do all these multi-dimensional selections, and then break it down in any way you want. So
It's huge.
those are the two values.
Will we get better reports on them, or every time we meet than we're getting now, or would it be the same?
Well, you'd have the platform. You could go pull it up yourself. I mean, you could.
I'll even make a pie chart for you.
We'll go down, we can print off the pie chart for you, Greg.
You know, you have. Okay.
Can I ask, how long have you been in business?
2 years.
Oh, and who are your founders?
Well, myself, our CEO Zach Bookman, Joe Lonsdale is our chairman.
And are you funded by any particular VC machine?
Yeah, we're venture backed, backed by FA Capital, Formation A Capital, Valiant Capital, Founders Fund, and Thrive Capital in New York City. And we've raised $7 million so far. So
And you're profitable?
not yet.
No.
But that's mostly because we're
It doesn't
looking
seem to be an issue these days, does it?
No,
Okay.
no. But that is largely because we're trying to build a much
Twitter.
more valuable platform there that we need more
Are
capital.
you
Your
intending,
headquarters?
Mountain View.
sorry, are you intending to go public, or are you gonna stay private?
We're not
Or is
thinking
that a
far yet.
purpose?
Truthfully, I don't know. Yeah.
No.
Okay. The only reason I ask is obviously we're investing in your company, we buy your software. So if you're the ones gonna import the data and actually make it functional, kinda want you to be around for a while.
I can
So-
promise you we will be private for the next 5 years. We're not gonna, at minimum, I mean,
We're
we're
not
not,
gonna be public.
I'm sorry, not gonna be public for the next 5 years minimum. I mean, we have a lot of work to do building bigger platforms here. We're not thinking, we don't have any type of plan like that right now, so.
Okay. All right.
Did Munger finance you with a nonprofit stage?
I'm sorry, Munger? Yes, he did.
So he's not moving on your private venture?
He has not invested in the company, no.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether we're talking about it, actually.
And they're local. They're in
Thank you.
Mountain View?
Correct.
And I'm sorry, what, and beyond your license fees, is there an upgrade or upgraded fee, or do you pay the same license fee per year of $2,800?
Correct, per year. Yeah, there's no increase.
No change in fee, so it's not a,
So it's not like each module that we would take on if we were if you got a BI module, if you got a data
Well,
warehouse
future
module, is that
products.
just gonna be an added feature on the existing product?
So, there are some added features that will be coming out. Future products, if we build a full business intelligence suite, will obviously be an additional product with an additional price. I don't know yet how we're gonna price those and.
Sorry, I specialize in BI, so it's probably really bugs me.
Okay, well, I don't yet know how we're gonna price that.
All right.
Our goal is to make everything as affordable as possible.
It should be free, that's what I think, it'll make your customers happy.
It's hard to do as a company,
Yeah, I know.
unfortunately.
But, all right, that's really interesting to know that. And it's not that hard of a jump. I mean, based on the background of how the software is been produced. It's just, yeah, making your Node.js guy work more harder.
Robert, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is, I think it's a great tool. It's an additional tool for anyone that wants to just look at historical or just see what the expenses or what our budget is. It's an additional tool. It's not going to take place of our budget, but it's something else that I think would be beneficial, not only for the citizens, but for us as well.
Well,
Do
can
you
we
see
use
it-
it in a 5-year forecast?
Sure.
The data, is that part of your software where we could put in assumptions and project out 5 years?
Absolutely. You can put in as many years forward, backward as you want.
But the assumption part, I don't think they have that yet.
We're not gonna make the assumptions for you, but if you.
No, if we
you have
made the
forecast-
assumptions,
Yes.
give us the result on a 5-year projection.
Yeah, you can get actual budget projected.
Yeah, you could upload that.
Years, right?
Is it something
Well-
that an auditor would use as a tool?
Potentially, it is something that an auditor could use. Now, some of the, it probably isn't, I was gonna say that it probably isn't something an auditor would use since it's not the raw data. I mean, this is something that in certain cities they toy around with that idea of using this for presenting to auditors, but because we've kind of formatted the data into our presentation, it probably wouldn't work well for that.
Gotcha.
So what staff would do from this point on, $2,800 a year in terms of a license fee is within the city manager's ability to contract for. So I would suggest that we do a presentation to the council at some point, and if Nate can come back and do that, or Zach or whoever, that would be excellent, and then move forward from there.
Yeah, I like it, I'm all for transparency, people can see, they can look where the tax money's going, we can look at salaries, overtime, and call you guys up, 11 o'clock.
The trend information, I think, is really necessary. I think you need to go back to 07, 08 to really give somebody a full trend.
Maybe 5 years.
At least 5.
We know,
Yeah.
so I just like it.
It's really cool, isn't it? Very
Thank you,
cool.
guys.
Nice job.
The graphics.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
see it right, boom, right
We'll
there.
certainly be in touch.
Great, great.
I think we need to, thank our city manager for being, aware of this, at his, manager's convention that he went to, conference, and, bringing that to us.
It's a good find. They were in the paper with Palo Alto's launch as well, so.
Yeah.
I came back from the conference and Robert had
Yeah.
it, I just saw that.
Yeah.
So we were like,
Good, so you guys, great
Yeah,
minds
that's
sticking
right.
together. Nice job,
Yeah.
very nice job.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Do you have any questions or anything about the platform?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Super, thank you.
Right next to Google.
Yeah, next door.
Robert, you want me to carry the computer back, or?
Oh, no, I'll get it when we're done. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, have a good day.
Robert, what's the difference between this and a spreadsheet that, on Excel, that takes the data and puts it in there and runs it? I mean, I'm not sure what the added value is here.
Well, I think the added value is, we can do that. It'd be, for us, it's more manipulate, we can take the data, export it in an Excel spreadsheet and make it pretty, make it nice. And it just takes constant updating, and which we already do. We do that for